And we start, I think, in 1964 with Bill Hamilton. And Hamilton showed that you could evolve altruism. You could evolve kin altruism. Genes that are in bodies that have altruistic behavior towards other bodies with copies of that gene would proliferate. And he came up with Hamilton's rule, the famous Hamilton's rule, that the cost to the fitness of the altruist, if it's less than the benefit to the receiver discounted by the degree of relatedness, altruistic behavior will evolve. Then in 1971, Robert Trivers built on this and showed that reciprocal altruism can evolve. I'll scratch your back if later, when you need it, if later you'll scratch mine when I need it. And Trivers showed, I think, how some of our emotions are really functional in that they help motivate and mediate this reciprocal altruism. We start to get insight into the function of our emotions. And of course, this was brought to a wider world and continues to be brought to a wider world by Richard's wonderful book, The Selfish Gene. And there's just an extraordinary amount of research that has exploded from these ideas. And one I particularly like, it came relatively late, what I call Steve Pinker's postscript. And he makes the argument that one of the other selection pressures that will drive reciprocity for creatures like ourselves is that human cooperation, there's no zero-sum game, that the benefits of cooperation are just so extraordinary. And secondly, that rationality itself precludes any sort of egocentric view. That if I ask you to do something for me, automatically I am having to take into account your perspective. And so that right there is probably, one of the bases for the golden rule. That you simply can't be, in some sense, really selfish and rational. And then, as I said, it's had an enormous impact on research, and we have a lot of what I would argue good ideas with empirical support. This is just some of them. Of course, one of the controversies that's generated by this issue is the issue of group selection. And I would argue to Dr. Collins that I think the evidence is there. And I think most biologists, evolutionary psychologists would argue that the evidence is there. That we do pursue our ultimate genetic self-interest through proximate evolved mechanisms that give us a genuine concern a true concern for other people.